Hey Swifties! Welcome to a brand new episode of Swiftie School, where together we walk Clownelia Street covering the latest news and Easter eggs from our fearless leader, Taylor Swift. I'm your host, Reagan Bailey, and it is enchanting to have you here. Now that we're out of the woods, let's get into today's episode.
It's another great day to be alive at the same time as Taylor Swift. Hello, my little tortured poets. How are we doing? How are we feeling? Before we dive into today's episode, gentle reminder that this podcast is merely a expression of my thoughts and opinions surrounding all things Taylor Swift. And while I would love to be connected with both Taylor Swift and Taylor Nation, I am not. And this is just me having fun chatting with you guys. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Now, Clown Nose is on, honk honk, beep beep. We are getting in the getaway car and we are headed straight for Clownelia Street, full speed ahead. We've got 31 tracks blasting in the car and I am arriving. I'm arriving at the theory of May 3rd and May 9th being connected. Hear me out. I'm coming up with this on the spot, even though I do have full notes. As I just said that out loud, I realized that the 3rd and the 9th are 6 days apart. That's interesting. That points me to reputation. And that's a dark rabbit hole I don't know that I was planned to go down at this exact moment in time. So I'm not going to steer us off track. We are going to be talking today all about the 5-3 theories, the third album theory, what's going on in all of the Swiftivities and clowning, the latest and greatest. I'm going to get you up to speed if you are not able to keep track of the deep, dark web that is trying to decipher Taylor Swift's Easter eggs. Now, I am just so jazzed because there are so many new friends that have joined listening to the podcast and or / followed me on social media, joined the Patreon since the album dropped. So if you are new here, welcome. My name's Reagan, and I obviously, I love Taylor Swift. What if I was like, actually, I don't really enjoy talking about Taylor Swift. This is just truly a passion project of mine, and it's kind of blossomed into my whole personality, which I am not mad at. I live in Los Angeles. I have 2 cats named Rocket and Tortellini. Let's see, what other fun facts can I spit at you on the spot? Love the color pink. I'm a big pink girl. If you're watching on YouTube, you could see all the pink behind me. I've moved around the United States my whole life. I was born in Georgia, moved to Florida, Texas, California, back to Florida, back to California, all over the place. I'm a Gemini Cancer cusp. My favorite Taylor Swift song at this exact moment in time is, The Manuscript. That's a tough one. Favorite album before Tortured Poets Department was Folklore, and now I think Tortured Poets Department is taking number 1, which is really scary to say. Is it replacing Folklore? I don't know. That's so difficult. Anywho, Swiftie School was really born out of me flapping my gums for so long, realizing that I did not have enough time over on Instagram and TikTok to say everything I needed to say, and people were asking for a little bit more. The crowd was chanting more. I was winning, I was winning, I was losing my mind. What a bop. Speaking of bops, we have a lot to discuss. So without further ado, let's continue the clowning together. And I wanted to mention before doing so, I was doing a lot of clowning over the weekend. This episode's now coming out and I am reporting from Mexico by the time you guys are listening to this. But this past weekend, I had a clown call, and a lot of the thoughts that I'm going to speak with you today about are stemming from the call that I had. If you're like, what's a clown call? I want to be there. Count me in. I do clown calls with my Patreon members, which you can find over on patreon.com/swiftieschool. And I added a new tier called the sorority tier. So there are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And then now there's a sorority tier, and the sorority members can enjoy 2 clown calls per month. So we just had one on the 29th on Sunday. We're going to have 2 more during the month of May. So if you are interested in continuing the conversation, hopping on virtually and either tuning in and being a fly on the wall, or actually chatting with lots of people who listen to the podcast and listen to all things Taylor, by all means, I would absolutely love to have you. Now, let's just take a look at our timeline here, because we have a lot going on, and May is going to be quite robust in the Swiftverse. So Friday 5-3 is obviously what this whole episode's about, so we're going to be chatting about that. Monday is the Met Gala. At this point, with a lot of the confirmation that we're getting, especially what did it for me is People Magazine. Right as I was posting my past Met Gala video, People Magazine came out and said they had, quote, inside information that Taylor was not attending the Met Gala, which most likely when People Magazine chimes in, it means that Tree Payne, Taylor's publicist, has alerted them. So I'm kind of thinking that she is going full steam ahead with preparing for Paris, which is totally fine and dandy because I have a lot of thoughts surrounding Paris itself. So 5-3, we're clowning for that date, and we'll dive into that. 5-6 is the Met Gala. Whether Taylor's there or not, a lot of her friends are going to be there. If you're a big Sabrina Carpenter fan, she'll be most likely in attendance. I saw her on a list or two. Thank you, Amy will be there, always. We love the Kardashians are always at the Met Gala. Love that for them. I love the Met Gala just in general. So if you're curious about that, I will be doing a ton of coverage all throughout Monday and the coming days leading up to the Return of the Eras, which is on Thursday the 9th, depending on when you're listening to this. No, that's next week. That's next week. I'm getting my days jumbled. I was going to say next week we're going to talk about the Return of Eras tour because I was like, wait, when is this coming out? And then following the Return of the Eras tour, we start in Paris, and then Taylor goes for the rest of the month over into Stockholm, Sweden. She's there for 3 nights, and then she ends the month in Portugal for 2 nights. And presumably, Travis will be in attendance for all of this. So I am super excited for more Tavis content. Are we on Tavis or Swelsey? You guys know I was calling them Swelsey because I think it's more fun than Tavis. Tavis and Swelsey. I really like Swelsey. I'm excited for more Swelsey content because we got a little taste of them in Vegas this past weekend at Patrick Mahomes' charity fundraiser, and that was adorable, and I loved it, and I love to see Taylor in green. I love Taylor in green. I think it's a fantastic color on her. She looks so elegant in green. I think it's how I like in like a redhead wearing green. Something about green on her just really, really works. So speaking of our girl Taylor, as if we haven't spoken about her already, I'm going to pull it up right now on my phone so I can look at it while chatting with you guys because she did something that I think is minimal, but extremely interesting and worth noting. So I'm looking at Taylor's Instagram right now. If you want to pull up your phone and look with me. At the time I am recording this, it was her last post. She may throw up another by the time this comes out, but it is the one with TTBD, and she says, "My mind is blown. I'm completely floored by the love you show in this album." We'll get into the rest of the caption in a minute, but my first initial thought, and why I'm saying this is minimal but important, is that she reintroduced color back into her Instagram feed, which is interesting to me. If you know the lyric from track 5, So Long London, which I think we all know, love, and adore, she says, "I'm just getting color back into my face," which to me is a metaphor for kind of that feeling of you're no longer wallowing in your sadness. You've picked yourself up. You're putting the pieces back together. You're putting your big girl pants on and you are marching forward full steam ahead. And I kind of feel like that's aligning with where she's at. Obviously, she's happy. She's not sad. You know, she's with Travis and seemingly happy. But I feel like now that she's moving full steam forward ahead, like going back into the Eras tour, she's got that color back in her face. And it's kind of cute with the timing of it. And I don't think this is very coincidental because Taylor Nation also added color back into the feed. So, as you guys know, none of it was accidental. And the first night that you saw me, I knew I wanted your Instagram feed to be back in color. So she added color back in, but let's get a little more deep than that. Back to the caption. She says 2.6 million. She says that and then she goes, "Are you actually serious?" Now 2.6 million, I discussed this with my Patreon members. We are thinking that 2.6 million is referring to the actual physical copies of her album being sold because I believe it was Melissa over in the Patreon group pointed out that the physical copies are what's actually directly being purchased in support of Taylor Swift. Obviously, a lot of people have streamed it. It's been like streamed over 1 billion times and all that jazz. Digitally, like purchased, I think over 1 million times, whatever it is, billion, bajillion, million. But 2.6 million is directly what's been purchased in terms of like her vinyl and CD. That's my understanding. You guys can chime in and let me know if you are interpreting that differently. But anytime we know Taylor gives us numbers, the queen of numerology, it means something, right? So without diving too deep into 2.6, 2 plus 6 equals 8. And she has 8 photos in this carousel post. So if you swipe through, there's 8 photos. And the 8th track on the album is Florida. So let's just plant that seed and leave that in the back of your mind. Another thought I had is 6 is reputation. And then 2, we know the peace sign, number 2. That's been a theme throughout all of this. I think that's a little less likely and probably more far-fetched. But while it's on the topic of my mind, looking down a little further, back to that Clue video that Taylor Nation posted and revisiting what they're calling like the timetable for the Tortured Poets department, we could only see the first couple of days on that timetable. And if you remember the Midnight's Manifest, that really gave us a lot of clues as to what was to come and what to expect. So really all we saw was Friday, the release of the album, and then record store day the following day. So we've yet to see what else is on the docket for the Torture Poets Department agenda as of yet. I think that perhaps 5/3 could be an important date, and I also think 5/9 could be an important date. And let's dig into that a little deeper. Most interestingly is that, and obviously, I guess, most interestingly and obvious, is that a fortnight after the album drops, so on 4/19, if we add a fortnight to that, it would lead us to 5/3. That's kind of initially where we landed on this. I had pointed out in a previous video, just as a refresher, 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 equals 14. We know 14 equals a fortnight. Now, the timetable and where this comes in is we saw the 14 tally marks on the timetable, which we know could stand for the Fortnite music video. It could also stand for the fortnight following that Friday. But here's where my mind was a little blown. One of you sent me a message and called out the Instagram story highlights over on Taylor Nation's page. So if you go to Taylor Nation's page and you look at the Instagram story highlights, you can see, I'm going to show you here if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify. You can see the Speak Now has 3 purple hearts, Fearless has 2 yellow hearts. If you scroll all the way to the end, Red has 4 scarf emojis. And then 1989 has 5 blue heart emojis. Those numbers right there give us 5, 3, 2, and 4, which is the date 5/3/24. Interesting, right? Could be coincidental. I think that's really odd if it is. But I'm wondering why would they be leading up to this date in particular? And my thought is anything that we're going to be getting on 5/3, I don't think Taylor would. I feel like I keep going back and forth. Would she want to do something major prior to getting back on tour? Or would she rather wait for something major to happen on the first night back at tour to make like a big splash? My thoughts are something in terms of the 3 continuing the anthology, whether it's some sort of documentary, whether it's some sort of, extended bonus version of the album, poetry book. I still think there's a final part to really like capstone Torture Poets Department, but I do really feel strongly that we may get another music video. And a lot of people are thinking maybe it would be Florida. I don't know. I think that would be interesting that her 2 music videos would have a feature. But the thing that really struck gold for me earlier while writing this up and kind of trying to dig deeper is that 5/3 backwards is 35. And we know that Taylor turns 35 this year. And if you think back to the pop-up at the Grove here in Los Angeles, there was a calendar on the desk that said Friday, December 13th. Now, we obviously know December 13th is Taylor Swift's birthday. But if you think to Friday, December 13th, her birthday falls this year on a Friday. It didn't fall on a Friday last year. It falls on a Friday this year. So we know that the date on the desk at the Grove pop-up is referring to this year. So all these 5/3s, 3/5 backwards being her birthday, I really do feel like she's kind of hinting towards like a timeline here for us that maybe we're filling in the timetable on our own. And then, we keep seeing a lot of lavender. We've talked about this a little bit over on my Instagram page, but we've seen her lavender skirt. We've seen her lavender fingernails. We've seen her reference her lilac or lavender skirt in one of her song lyrics off Torture Poets Department. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, maybe lavender is going to be like a color associated with debut Taylor's version. But I'm thinking, okay, what's the symbolism behind lilac? And I looked it up online, and lilac symbolizes early love. So I'm kind of thinking it's maybe this like rebirth period for Taylor where she's like kind of relaunching herself or her brand or her identity like after this crisis that was the Torture Poets Department emotionally for her. I'm sure symbolically it has like a deeper meaning than that, but just scratching the surface here, I think it's interesting to think about. Now, here's where I really want to blow your guys' mind because I am still hung up on the fact that something is happening in Paris. And I was chatting with one of you guys online and you pointed out the surprise song sets. Now, I mentioned on the last podcast episode how she bookended the tour with repeating Mirrorball and Tim McGraw. But what I failed to notice is that there are 2 songs from the Midnight album that she has not played yet. And those 2 songs, get ready to pull over your car if you're driving right now, is Glitch, the song Glitch, and Paris. Do we think there is going to be a glitch in Paris? And do we think that the anthology is going to lead us into Reputation, and we would get some sort of that's the reason why we haven't gotten it on CD or vinyl. I'm just dumbfounded here as to why we have yet to receive the CD and vinyl version of the anthology. And the fact that the 2 Midnight songs that have yet to be played are Glitch and Paris are throwing me for a loop. Now, if there doesn't end up being a Glitch in Paris, it would be kind of hilarious for her to play those as her 2 surprise songs. I think she will 113% play Paris during the surprise song set, assuming that she continues doing it. And that begs the bigger question of, will she add Torture Poets Department to the tour? And if so, and this is where I want you guys to chime in and let me know, where would she insert Tortured Poets Department into the tour? Someone had said, well, what if she removes the Lover set entirely? I'm like, okay, I don't know about that. What if she starts with Tortured Poets Department at the beginning of the show? What if she adds it after Folklore? What if she cuts Folklore down a bit since it's really long? What if she adds it after Midnights? I mean, there's so many possibilities here, and I really think it's going to be something unhinged and crazy, and I'm fully anticipating that freaking yellow Pringles dress to make an appearance, because if you have been tuning in to the Eras Tour live streams, which I will be sure to share those over on social media as we get closer to the Eras Tour date returning, she always wears the yellow Pringles dress, is what we call it now. The yellow Pringle dress means chaos, and you can fight me on that because I believe it. I thought that if we are in the frame of mind of adding Tortured Poets Department to the Eras Tour, what songs would she add? And I feel like Taylor Nation already started to tell us what songs she will be adding to the Eras Tour with that cryptic, crazy freaking post that they made over on Instagram. That carousel post where it starts with the screenshot of the Fortnite music video, goes into the yellow Pringles dress, the Karma coffee cup, the 5 holes in the fence, etc., etc. That specific post, the caption is, "You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised us," which we know the lyric is me, but they changed it to us. And that's Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, obviously from Tortured Poets Department. And I kind of feel like we could see that be the first song that she adds in to the Eras Tour. What are your thoughts? I feel like with the Fortnite music video and the top hats and the circus vibes with the canes and the dancers, that could be like the first song on her Torture Poets Department set. I don't know. It's kind of where my heart is leaning. Curious to know your guys' thoughts on all of that. And of course, we will be circling back and diving a little bit deeper into Torture Poets Department once I have a little bit more information following 5/3, Met Gala. I will record all of my thoughts, and then next week we will kind of shift focuses into digging a little deeper into that. But I wanted to plant the seed before we dive into our Swiftie submissions because we have some good ones today. So first one is from Anonymous, and they say, in the Eras Tour, to transition to Tortured Poets Department, Taylor could sing at the end of Speak Now, "I was tame, I was gentle," and then the dancers rip off her Speak Now dress. Under the dress is a black or white, but I was thinking black dress. Then she sings, "Until the circus life made me mean." Then that would be the start of the TTPD era. Whoa. Oh my God, that's so funny. I did not even read this far in their submission. They said, I think the songs would be Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, which is exactly what I just said as the first song. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, Tortured Poets Department, and Fortnite. These are solid, solid predictions. I will completely agree with you on Who's Afraid of Little Old Me and I Can Do It With a Broken Heart and Fortnite. I had not considered Tortured Poets Department as being added, but as a title track, I would see that making sense. But I really need to reread this because this is blowing my mind. Okay. I was tame, I was gentle, and then they rip off her dress. Until the circus life made me mean. Whoa. I could see it now. Very much like her olden days when she was on tour. What was it, for Fearless? Was that Fearless where she would wear the circusy outfit and then rip it off? No, wait, I'm mixing up the circus outfit she would wear, and then I'm also mixing up the Fearless tour where they would rip. No, I'm not. Am I mixing that up? It's too late. I need to record these earlier in the night so I don't get jumbled up. But she definitely has had that iconic dress rip moment, and I feel like you're so right. Whoever you are who submitted this, we are missing a dress rip moment from the tour, and this might be the time to add it in. I absolutely love this. Next submission is from Sarah S. And Sarah S said, if you could pick any 4 Torture Poets Department songs to put on the Eras Tour set list, what would you pick? And what 4 songs would you pick to kick from the set list? Ooh, that is tough. Okay. What would I kick from the set list? Golly gosh. Midnight Rain. I could do without Midnight Rain. No hate to the song. I just think I could do without it. I could also, this is going to be controversial. I could do without the surprise song set. Is that really crazy of me? I feel like Taylor's had her fun with it, but I would rather add length to the show with Torture Pose Department and something new and fresh. Gasp. Is that crazy? I guess that's not a real song. So I would say I would remove the Archer just because it's slower. I feel like the beginning of the show slowing down like that is a little meh. And maybe one other. Let's see. Folklore is such a long set, but I truly love all of them. So that's a hard one for me. I would say maybe something from like Red. I can't think of a fourth one, but looking at the set list, okay, I already said, okay, I have to say Down Bad. I think Down Bad, the crowd would just be bananas.com. And Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? I feel like screaming that would be so cathartic and incredible. Those are probably my two that I would pick. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me and Down Bad, along with the other two that we had mentioned. Now, the last submission's from Heather. And Heather said, with debut TV, I think it would be weird for her to make an album called Taylor Swift Taylor's Version. So do you think she's going to make the official name of the album Debut Taylor's Version or not? Because I think it would make sense where it'd be funny if she did Taylor Swift Taylor's Version. I don't think she will ever call it Debut. That's really just kind of what people call it because it's weird to say Taylor Swift. But the album is truly called Taylor Swift. And I feel like it would be kind of hilarious to call it Taylor Swift Taylor's Version, but my gut says what she'll actually call it is Taylor Swift My Version. That would be a really cool way to close out the re-records and kind of put a perfect little bow with a little hot glue gun and glitter pen on this whole crazy whirlwind of a process that was re-records. But I want to know from you guys, what do you think she would name it? Taylor Swift Taylor's Version or Taylor Swift My Version? Debut Taylor's Version? I don't know. But earlier I had mentioned in the podcast that a lot of this clowning had started out over in my Patreon group, and I would be remiss if I did not welcome some of our newest members over on the Patreon group to the podcast. So without further ado, let's dive into some of our newest members from a bunch of the different tiers because there are a lot of you. So let's just do a little chunk of you and start out with Madison. So we've got Madison, we have Travis, Caitlin, welcome, Britt, Nina, and Popcorn, which you guys should go check her out. Popcorn is her adorable rabbit. So we have Nina and Popcorn. We have Danielle, Cade, Stacy. We have Caitlin 930, Angela Denton, Med B, welcome. We have Meg, Hillary, Gina, Heather McGowan, Weston, Jessica Jones, Brittany, Gina, Allie Cooper. Welcome, you guys. I am so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining. And I would love to have a few more of you if you're interested in checking it out. Like I mentioned, that's over at patreon.com/Swiftieschool. It's a great way to support me and the podcast. Make sure to submit your guys' submissions. I cannot wait to see all of your thoughts. Like I said, I am reporting live from Mexico for the rest of the week. So I'll be tuning in there. And then for next week, when we return to the Eras Tour, my mom's going to be in town. So I'm super excited for you guys to meet her. Ooh, she's not going to be here on the day I typically record podcast episodes. So we'll probably just record content for social media. But if you want to go check it out, I will make sure to flood my pages with Reagan and mom content because my mom is iconic and she lives for a good OOTD outfit check situation over on the socials. I'm wishing you guys a great week. Dying to hear what song is your top choice at the current moment off of Torture Pose Department. This has been a whirlwind and we're just getting started. So stick around, send this to a friend, and I can't wait for the next one. Bye!
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I know all too well how busy life can be, and I am so grateful that you chose to stay. Now just know this is me trying, and I would greatly appreciate if you took a minute to leave a review or maybe share this episode with a fellow Swiftie. Make sure you join my broadcast channel on Instagram for more Swiftivities, and long story short, this love is real, and I'm beyond grateful for your support. See you next time!